All right, this is a fun episode for you world travelers out there. We are going to be talking international real estate, buying properties in foreign countries, pros, cons, when you should do it, why you should do it, and you're going to learn my favorite perk that comes with international real estate. Welcome to Real Estate Maximalist. I'm your host, Alan Corey, the author of A Million Bucks by 30 and House Fire, Financial Independence and Retire Early. I teach the House Fire method for you to retire early through real estate. I'm also a top agent with the real estate team, the Alan Corey team in Atlanta, and I've been investing for over 22 years, but I find it much easier to just say I'm a real estate maximalist. Okay. International real estate sounds exciting, sounds maybe expensive. It sounds far-fetched, a dream maybe to buy a place in a different country. Depending where you are, it could actually be cheaper for you and easier for you. And so I'll tell you why I'm sort of thinking about this subject. I met someone who has several international Airbnbs, and it seemed like he set himself up for a pretty good life where he has short-term Airbnb in Switzerland and then Taiwan and 4 or 5 other different countries. He was actually looking in America for another property, and he can rent it out and obviously travel himself and stay in those properties. And that's always been my catch with short-term rentals or vacation homes is a lot of people go into these saying, "Hey, I also want to stay there myself," which is interesting because I always make a differentiation between what is a lifestyle decision and what is an investment decision. And this is really trying to make the best of both worlds where you're saying, hey, my lifestyle would be great. I'll want to live there for part of the season. And of course, that eats into your spreadsheet decision because the times that you're using your vacation rental, it's not making money for you. So it's hard to justify a lot of times paying a premium because you're in a vacation destination or maybe a different country and say, hey, this is going to make me money when I'm not there. It can, right? It can. It's just a different assessment because now your own biases are coming in because you're trying to create a lifestyle decision within this. Like, well, when I visit for 2 weeks out of the year, I want to be on the beach, even though you probably could have some guests that are completely fine paying a premium to be 2 blocks from the beach, right? Or, hey, I want to be right on the ski slope and walk out and go skiing rather than having to drive 6 blocks to the mountains. And so once you start inputting your own personal preferences, it no longer really becomes the best investment decision making vehicle. But what it does is, hey, you can have an extra lifestyle decision that's supported by the rental income. You can make it an investment. You're leading. It's like, what foot are you going to lead with? You really have to make that decision. So take that into consideration. That's always been my hang up. Like if you're going to buy a vacation rental, I try to tell people just don't ever want to stay there. And I think you'll make better decisions. And what I'm learning from a lot of folks who have bought properties with the lifestyle in mind, they never go because the money's so good. So sometimes it does kind of work out in that benefit. Just know you're going to be taking money out of your own pocket a lot of times with this second or third home option. And I also have clients who feel obligated to always use their vacation home if it happens to be vacant rather than going to another destination. And so they're reluctantly using their investment as a lifestyle choice. It just sort of sours the vacation for them. It changes the mood because they're like, we could be going here for vacation, but we're going to go to our VRBO that's vacant. So just know that these sort of things play out. But if you kind of go into purchasing properties that you're never going to live in, I think then there's some opportunity there. And that applies locally if you're buying within the United States, right? Vacation rentals all over. But let's take this a step further and say, let's play out what happens internationally. So international, obviously, you're going to have to deal with different way of buying properties, financing properties, locating properties, managing those properties, and you're really going to have to put your trust in the local team there. Let's first talk about financing. Financing, a lot of foreign countries don't want to give you mortgages on properties because they don't trust you. You're not a citizen. You don't have income in that country, and they can't verify a lot of the income that you have. And if you happen to default on a loan, it's going to be very difficult for them to come chase after you. So what options does that give you, whether you live in America or Canada? Typically, you're going to have to find your financing in your home country, whether that's a HELOC on your current property, a home equity line of credit, which is basically a direct line on the equity of your home. Maybe you do a cash out refi on an investment property, pull out some cash. But the way it's going to work is you're going to have to find your own financing on your own properties or just come out of pocket and probably buy these properties in the foreign country in all cash. It's going to be very difficult to get mortgages and loans unless you really sort of follow through and want to set up a business, show some income coming in their country. You really want to take it where this may be a place where you're operating business out of. Otherwise, it's going to be really difficult to get this financing on these properties. But before you turn out, I just want to tell you some of the prices here. And some of these homes are obviously going to be cheaper than they are where you are, maybe even in your hometown. I wanted to quickly jump here because this is my favorite part of international investing is that there's countries that when you purchase real estate as a foreigner, you get the ultimate perk. I can't think of any other perk in real estate that is better than this, a passport. Some countries will give you a golden visa, citizenship, or permanent residency if you just buy a property in their country. This is a way to incentivize wealthier foreigners to help purchase property in their country, stabilize it, create tourism, have you come and visit your own properties and hire staff to manage it. It's actually a really smart perk for a government to provide if you're not as prosperous country. And there's countries and really exciting destinations where it only costs $200,000. You have to buy a property for $200,000 in this country. It's a beautiful country. It's a destination, and they will give you a passport on top of that. That is amazing to me. And it can also be an investment. You're buying it in cash, but you can also rent it out, right? You can do a short-term Airbnb internationally. So I've got a list, and I just want to talk you through these and really open your mind about buying real estate and using it as one, hey, I can rent it out and make money, right? Ideally, you get a HELOC or a credit line or something at home, purchase it in all cash over there. I know I'm anti-cash, but the way I look at it is, hey, if I'm pulling out of a HELOC, I'm really financing it. As long as the property I'm buying, I can rent it out to cover those HELOC payments. But for $200,000, you can also buy a property that makes you money and it comes with a passport in these foreign countries. St. Kitts and Nevis, Colombia, Dominica, Antigua, and Barbuda. These are countries I've been to, South America, Caribbean island. Beautiful countries for tourism. Your dollar goes really, really far there. And wherever I travel, I always look at the property values. I'm always looking at the property values. I'm always pretending, hey, if I bought something here, either if I lived here or if I rented it out, what would it look like? And as this podcast gets released, I'm actually in Spain right now looking at properties. I say I'm looking at properties. I haven't followed through. I don't own anything internationally yet, but that's fun for me. That's what I want to do. I want to do all the touristy sites. I want to see all the, the nature, the mountains and everything and the coastlines and the beaches. But everywhere I travel, I've got to go at least see 1, 2, 3, 4 properties. That's just exciting for me. So in Spain, where I'm at now, $500,000. That's the minimum for Spain to get a golden visa, which seems great for a country, right? A bigger country, not a small country. I'm gonna give you some more countries. These are all countries that I can see myself living in, investing in, be excited about. Here are the golden visa countries that have a $250,000 minimum: Grenada, Latvia, Montenegro, Greece. I know some of these countries have had some sort of financial crises going on, and I know Greece had an opportunity where you could buy properties for $1. Some small towns in Italy as well, as long as you renovate it and make it your primary residence. And a lot of times those renovations end up costing, $200,000 and more. But same sort of concept. $300K minimum: Cyprus, Panama, St. Lucia. $350K minimum purchase price for a house in order to get a golden visa. So this list, obviously there's cheaper homes in all these countries, and you can still buy it as a foreign national in all these countries. I'm specifically giving you minimums that come with citizenship or permanent residency, which, who knows? If we go to war, your country goes to war, similar to Ukraine or Russia, citizens had nothing to do with that. It's two governments making decisions that affect the citizens. Imagine if you had a property in another country, good or bad, right? You could quickly move your family and have citizenship somewhere. And a lot of these things, if you have a passport in, let's say, Grenada, it's also a tax haven. You get a lot of tax breaks if you live there for over 6 months out of the year. But their passport allows you to travel to other countries that maybe your current passport doesn't allow you to travel to. So it could be sort of a global entry ticket to other countries as well. $375,000 minimum, Mauritius and Portugal, $425,000 minimum, Turkey, Andorra, Curacao, and then $500,000 Spain, $525,000 Bahrain. That's a healthy list of countries. Obviously, there's more countries that it just gets higher and higher. But I just listed 20 countries for under $525,000 that you can buy property in, and it comes with a passport. That to me is insane. That's, to me, if you're going to buy internationally, start with these countries where they come with a passport. Because to me, having multiple passports gives you a lot of options, right? And I'm always a fan of options. I never want to be pigeonholed somewhere. I love having options. So this has gotten me excited at looking internationally. So just some nuts and bolts. Let's say you buy this property internationally. Obviously, you want to do your research on if it's a property that can actually be listed for rent or short-term Airbnb. This is what my advice is locally, but also internationally, because a lot of districts now no longer allow that, or they're changing the rules. That's a risk that you run. Also, there could be political upheaval in these countries. There could be tropical storms, specifically the Caribbean countries. So make sure you get the right insurance, and just know that there's always going to be risk associated with this. But that passport outweighs a lot of risk in my mind. I saw firsthand several friends and family who were affected differently traveling during COVID and coronavirus based on their passport. And if you had a British passport, it would have been treated differently, and your test results could be different than if, let's say, you had a Chinese passport or a Costa Rican passport, something along those lines. So if there is sort of world events happening, having those options, it's a wonderful perk. If you're considering this, I would start by looking at Airbnb.com and just seeing what things are renting for in certain locations. Do you need to have a pool? Do you need to have a hot tub? What's the price per night? If you're going to be getting a HELOC, would that be enough to cover your HELOC? The property management is probably going to take roughly 20 to 30% of those fees. The best website that everyone uses is AirDNA to really understand that market's VRBO, AirBO, short-term rental rates, how much they're getting, how often there are vacancies. That's sort of the data you're going to want to have to make a decision if this is going to be completely a spreadsheet decision for you. So keep that in mind. Lastly, get an international real estate agent. I've got Shalitha Litt Colbert on my team, the Alan Corey team. She's certified international. If you want someone to talk to, please reach out to her. She is an expert in this. She knows how to do international property management and negotiate deals internationally, or find you someone with boots on the ground. She's got multiple international Airbnbs herself. She's actually in Costa Rica as I record this right now. Otherwise, I'd have her on the show, but I will have her on in a future episode. But Shalitha Litt Colbert, she's on the Alan Corey team. Reach out to her, Shalitha at alancoreyteam.com. Or on Instagram, she's at the Littis Realtor, and she'll happily help you and point you in the right direction to get you everything you need internationally. Wanted to spend this episode planting that seed in your head. Hey, international real estate could be cheaper than where you are. It could come with a passport, things you never thought of before, and it's fun. And if you're wondering whether you're real estate maxi, well, are you the type of person that when they travel, they go look at real estate? Do you pick up those little magazines outside every single coffee shop and devour every listing and look at every photo? Because that's what I do. And this kind of helps me scratch my itch a little bit, maybe narrow my focus, because when you've got 300 different countries to choose from, it's difficult. But if you got 20 that come with citizenship that under $500,000, wow, okay, I'm going to start thinking about this a little bit seriously. So if I don't come home from Spain, that might be a reason why. I found a property and I'm staying and I'm buying it. But the good news is it'll also be an investment property, so you can come rent it and stay where I've stayed, and maybe our trips will overlap and you're going to have to get a neighboring Airbnb. I don't know. These are the problems that I want to have and look forward to having too many people visiting me in a international destination. So let's make it happen. Thank you to everyone who's been giving me excellent podcast reviews. Please keep them coming. I need that. That's the lifeblood of this podcast or podcast reviews. So if you could take a moment and give me your feedback on the new format. What information do you want? Whether you like this or not, honestly, I don't care if it's a bad feedback. I just want your feedback. And I know the podcast medium is a bit of a vacuum. So you can also follow me and get in touch with me at Real Estate Maxi on Twitter, or I'm also quite active in the Real Estate Maximalist Facebook group. Happy to answer all your real estate questions in there as well. Thanks for tuning in to Real Estate Maximalist. I'm your host, Alan Corey.